At this very moment, in a system far from here, the New Republic lies to the galaxy. All remaining systems will bow to the First Order!
Hello
And welcome.
to a social distancing episode of All Remaining Systems. I'm your host, Michael.
And I'm your co-host, Matthew.
We've got a very different setup than usual today. Me and Matt are recording this from two separate locations, so who knows if this will work out. But we're trying our best here. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm keeping my distance. I think we're well beyond 6 foot here. I've got my toilet paper, got some masks and gloves.
I don't have masks. I have got gloves, though. I managed to sneak a few from work.
Yeah, I was tempted about getting a Darth Vader, respirator mask, just walking around.
I just want the glove of Darth Vader, so that way I could officially become Trioculus. My one true dream. So a little bit of an update for those unaware about what's going on with All Remaining Systems as of late. It's not a major update or anything. It's not like Matt's dying or anything. Wait, Matt, are you dying?
I don't think I am.
Okay, cool. Just for a bit of housekeeping stuff, my laptop is currently not functioning, which was our primary means of recording and editing everything. So we had actually just recorded our 4th LEGO Star Wars video. And now all that footage may be lost. But I'm not 100% sure. I may be able to cobble something together, but it will be unique and different if something does come of that. And obviously right now is not the best time to go out and try and replace my laptop. So bear with us with I know our content isn't consistent to begin with, but just bear with us as we work through this, and we'll try our best to put out some good stuff. Is there anything else I needed to say before we actually got into whatever it is we're doing today? Because we don't have a topic in mind, we're just rolling with the punches?
I think we're just rolling with the punches here.
Alright, let's, who's punching?
I think this is just touch gloves and whoever swings. Man, we got a lot of content to talk about. It's been a while.
It has been a hot minute since we've recorded a regular episode of this podcast. Because aside from our Rise of Skywalker review, we haven't really talked about a whole lot lately. We've been doing weird videos, and Matt and I have very different schedules in terms of work and school, so it's been very difficult for us to try and record stuff. So now we technically have more time to record stuff. We just don't have the means. But we're still trying, and this is a good experiment, because if recording from a distance works well for us, then we may still try and do it in the future. If who knows, we're making it me, we're making it us. I don't know. So where do we start? What Star Wars things?
You know what? The Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. Okay.
It's such a good show.
It's really solid.
So, of course, those that have listened, I love Boba Fett. He's my guy. But
that's a Mando fanboy.
But here's the thing. This is canon Mandalorian stuff, and it's so cool. I'm very fond of Westerns, and I love Star Wars. So, essentially what we have here is a Star Wars Western. And that's the coolest thing. When I saw the Mando just walk into a bar and go for the bounty, I was like, "Oh, this is gold. This is beautiful."
It's short and it's sweet. It is It is no surprise to me that I enjoyed it. I'm not as big of a fan of The Mandalorians as you are, Matt, but what I am a fan of is the Edge of the Empire role-playing game. And there were so many episodes of The Mandalorian that just felt like like an Edge of the Empire session or a quest or something like that. And that's what I really liked about it. Because we've got lots of Star Wars stuff that deals with like the rebellion against the Empire. You've got the stuff about Jedi and the Sith. This is the first like mainstream, barring like Solo. This is the first like mainstream stuff that focuses on the scum and villainy of the galaxy.
Yeah, it focuses more on like the nitty gritty, what goes on like outside of these major forces. Like you don't have like these large like factions of the rebellion and empire. You have these in between little gray areas, civilian life.
And the empire is still there, but it's a fractured empire.
Yeah, and you've also got people just trying to make a quick buck, really.
Yeah. Oh, Matt, what was your favorite and your least favorite episode of The Mandalorian?
Ooh, oh man, this is hard. This is really hard because
I can go first if you want me to.
You go first. You go first. Kind of sway me, actually.
Okay. My least favorite. It's between two episodes, and I want to say neither of these episodes were bad. They were just the least good. It was either the one where he trains the village to fight against the Raiders and the AT-ST, or it's the one on Tatooine. And I'm leaning toward the one on Tatooine with the amateur bounty hunter who wants to join the guild.
What was that one called? Gunslinger?
I think so. It's the one with the guy with the really punchable face that everyone has memed, except for Steele Saunders, who apparently stands that guy. But anyway, like I said, it wasn't bad, but it's the least good.
Okay.
I
actually, again, I liked a lot about The Mandalorian. I saw some good moments in that particular episode. Like you see the reaction like with a blaster to the Beskar, and the use of flares. Okay, I haven't really seen flares in a Star Wars film or live action.
I don't know if we have seen that.
I don't remember seeing any flares, but it's cool seeing like the tactics being played, like because when you think Star Wars and their sniper rifles, these weapons that are just pinpoint accuracy, and if they are pinned down in an area, how do you get out of that situation? I like they're kind of like these unique solutions to how things work. Like you use the flares to mess with the scope so you don't get hit. Also, the episode where I'm jumping episodes here, but the episode where Mando actually takes the child and he's leaving, and the stormtroopers have him surrounded, and he uses the whispering birds.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like I thought the whistling birds were kind of like a cheap kind of, way of, he got out of the situation, but it makes sense because Star Wars technology has a lot of wide range of weird and funky weapons.
Yeah, for sure. There were a few moments where I was like, this Mandalorian's blaster seems a little OP. The way it just obliterates people.
It disintegrates them?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that because it gives a perspective of that callback from Empire Strikes Back of no disintegrations. Yeah. And we get to see like what that actually looks like on screen.
I also just really like the fact that it's the blaster from the holiday special.
Yeah.
There's just so many good EU references in it. Like in every episode, there's some sort of reference. There's a Loth cat in one episode that's in the bar or whatever. You've got references to Life Day and stuff like that.
Yes, the life. Yeah. Life Day. I really liked it kind of gave a new look on Jawas because they are scavengers and they are thieves, but we really didn't see much of that. Like, it's implied in episode 4, but I like how they just straight up stole his stuff and then tried to like get him to pay more to get his own stuff back. And then also I like seeing like their weird like kind of animalistic side of wanting the egg.
I just love that I can say that there was a live action Sandcrawler chase. Like, it's such an absurd concept done so well. I really loved it.
Which that's happened in the comic books where Boba Fett has chased Luke Skywalker with a Sandcrawler, and it crashes and he falls out into the Sarlacc again.
What a pimp that man, Boba Fett. Big
pimp.
Let's see. Best episode. It's hard to pick, but I think the one that I enjoyed the most, it was just so much fun, was the Prison Break episode, where they're breaking the Twi'lek dude out of the New Republic prison.
Yeah.
That one encapsulated the most to me of like, this is 110% an Edge of the Empire thing, you know? Like, we have done this. Is there an episode that stands out to you as your favorite? Or
I like the one where Mando was actually leaving. Like, he just got the child, and all the Mandalorians like come out and they start shooting. And
yes,
I loved that. That was a really cool moment because it had like the shootout at the OK Corral kind of feel to it, and but like it just shows that even though the Mandalorians were kind of giving Mando trash about taking the Beskar from Imperials, they still stuck together because that was their way, that was their culture.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because you are way more into the Mandos than I am, and thus you know their ideology a lot better. What did you think of the portrayal? Because it's a little different than the stuff we've gotten before, like the helmet stuff, and
this particular faction. It makes sense. Because a lot of people are like, well, Mandalorians don't take off their helmets, and then you've got people that are like, well, what about
Pre-Vizsla, Jango Fett, Boba Fett.
Now, you could argue Jango Fett wasn't the real Mandalorian because of that comment that was made back in the Clone Wars, even though I personally think that was just a way to throw them off their trail because they were trying to prove that there was no Mandalorian insurrection. So, of course, they would say, oh, he's not a real Mando, because that just, you know.
And you could also argue that that's them trying to distance their peaceful Mandalorian culture from the warmongering Mandos,
but
such as the Death Watch.
Each tribe of the Mandalorians have different ideologies on what they think is right. Like, you've got the True Blood Mandos, you've got Death Watch, you've got all sorts of different groups.
Yeah, for
you got
sure.
Blood
and
Mandos.
even then, Death Watch changed a lot over the years in its ideologies. Like, that was one thing that people were like complaining about a lot when that stuff started popping up, and I didn't understand why. I was like, there's lots of different like factions of Mandalorians, like especially after the Mandalorian Wars. Like, they're split all over the galaxy. Like, they're gonna form different variants of their ideology.
And yeah, like with the whole Death Watch thing, how they said there's, like when Maul, assumed the throne of Mandalore, and they're like, no outsider can rule Mandalore. Well, that's contradictory because Mandalorians don't have a bloodline.
Yeah, and like that was another thing of like the Death Watch split because of that split in ideology. Like the ones who stuck with Maul and the ones who stuck with Bo-Katan.
So you'll have some that are like, oh yeah, not removing your helmets. That makes sense. Because there's honor in the armor, and there's, it's that pride.
Yeah.
And then some are like, no, that's dumb. We need to eat and actually look at each other. So it's interesting. I liked how. So they mentioned the Scourge of Mandalore, and they're all in hiding. That's kind of an interesting idea.
They have left so much open for future stories and canon without. They didn't leave this series feel like incomplete in doing so, but they've left so much room for future stories, and I love that. I want to know everything about Moff Gideon already.
So I really like how they actually give a materialized name for their specific metals. Like, it used to be called Mandalorian iron. Okay.
Well, Beskar also, I think, had been used in the past. I don't. At least I'm pretty sure. I could be entirely wrong.
Well, I know with different canon stuff, it fluctuates, but since this is canon,
it's always hard to differentiate what's canon anymore and what's legend.
So,
it's all just the same in my brain.
Now, I could be wrong. It could have been already mentioned, but a lot of times they reference their armors, like Jango Fett's armor wasn't a true Mandalorian armor. It was like a Durasteel.
Okay.
But then they could have thrown that out the window too, so who knows?
Yeah.
But I like this whole underground feel to it. I like the scenes where they're actually smelting the Beskar.
Yeah, the whole Mando Forge was really cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea to me, because you never really see too much of production, really. You kind of assume, oh, well, these things are made. They're probably made in factories and stuff. Well, it seems this is more... It feels kind of archaic, but it's so futuristic on how they can just build stuff that quickly. Because, usually the way things are built, they're in mass factories. But since they're an underground facility, of course they do blacksmithing stuff. But blacksmithing stuff, just making one piece of armor, can take months just to make one thing. But the way that they are able to just kind of use this future forge looking thing and make the armor, I thought that was really fascinating.
They used the Star Forge.
Which I think is kind of funny, because in Star Wars, like, whenever they do stuff like repairs and things, they straight up use the effects that an arc welder would use.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting that they used like a gas-based forge. It was just neat to me.
Yeah. I did want to bring up Moff Gideon, because I am so fascinated by him, as previously stated. I want to see everything there is with Moff Gideon, and how the hell did this man get the Darksaber?
Yeah,
that was the biggest surprise out of the whole season for me. Like, I remember my exact experience watching that moment. I was like, man, this has been a really good finale. And I was like, yeah, of course, they didn't kill off Moff Gideon. You can't write off Giancarlo Esposito that easily. And then as soon as I saw the lightsaber breaking through, my jaw dropped. I was like, hold up, mate.
Now, I will say this. As much as I love, like, The Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, the child, just steals the show. I think he's absolutely adorable.
I mean, who doesn't? Like, what can I add to that? It's Baby Yoda. It speaks for itself.
Now I'm getting,
or if you're like,
I'm
if
getting
you're
a little
an
annoyed about the memes about him. I'm like, okay, chill out.
I can get that. Yeah.
What?
I agree, but
I want to see him eventually wearing a Mando helmet. I think that'd be cool.
I've seen some great fan art of him.
Half of them were from me. No.
But you see, you call him Baby Yoda. Me,
I call him
intellectual, I call him the asset. Which still, what sort of weird experiments on Force sensitives is the Empire doing that they want this asset so bad?
I mean, it's probably that cloning thing just to make sure, Darth Sidious comes back.
I mean, it's possible, but that's mostly the Sith Eternal doing that, It's not the First Order, which is the what became of the Imperial Remnant. So it's possible it has something to do with that. It may very well just be a vague evil plan that the bad guys have, which if so, that's fine, but...
The sequel of the Inquisitorium.
The new Knights of Ren. That was another thing I wanted to talk about. Hold on, I gotta write something down in my notes so I don't forget to talk about it.
Palpatine's dagger.
Was there anything else we wanted to talk about The Mandalorian? Did you give a best episode ever?
No, I didn't. I can't decide what's the best and what's the worst because every little bit had some gems in there.
For sure, it was a darn good show, and I can't wait to see what comes in the future. I was very surprised they did the face reveal in season 1.
Yeah, that was interesting. It wasn't what I was expecting. Well, I mean, I know what the actor looked like, but that particular face reveal at that moment, I was like, oh.
And it makes sense for the story. It's not like a bad thing or anything.
Right.
It was just I wasn't sure they would actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's everything just screeches cool to me. The Mandalorian's armor, his ship is cool. It's so cool.
It is. It's such a fun show too. You can argue a lot of it's filler, but who cares? Yeah. It's fun Star Wars.
It's fun Star Wars. I think we're going to talk about the new season of the Clone Wars.
Yeah. I'm not caught up. There was a new episode that released today. I haven't watched the last 3. Not because I'm like, oh, the Ahsoka's arc is bad. I don't care.
Yeah, we could talk.
It's average Clone Wars. It's just I'm not that invested in Clone Wars. Yeah, well, let's talk about Bad Batch. Wat Tambor, 10 out of 10.
Yes. It's kind of interesting how he claims neutrality. I didn't think the Banking Clan was, or not Banking Clan. That was the don't do it.
The Techno Union.
Yeah, the Techno Union. I kept playing the meme in my head. I was like, it's not Electronic Dance Union.
No, that's the that one esoteric Star Wars rubbish video where he's playing the music on his dials.
I was like, it's not the Boogaloo Clan. Yeah. So the Techno Union. Yeah, I didn't realize that they claim neutrality. Like, I know the Banking Clan can claim that they're
So
neutral.
here's the thing. As I recall, or at least this is how I interpret it, the majority of the Separatist Council, which is mostly the major corporations, Banking Clan, trade federations, are all technically neutral. Because, they're in it for the business. They're supporting both sides of the war. They're granted seats in the Senate. At least I believe the Trade Federation still has one in the Clone War. Don't they?
Wow. Caught me off guard there.
I want to say they do, but I don't...
I think they're all represented. It's just...
Right.
Yeah.
But the point is, they are playing both sides for financial gain. And it's like the Separatist Parliament that is made up of the actual systems that just want to secede and want the war to end peacefully. Which that is really interesting stuff that we've actually talked about a lot. Because you and I, for a while, were talking about maybe running a Separatist campaign for a Star Wars RPG.
Yeah. You know what's kind of interesting? You see a lot about this whole union of the Trade Federation, the Techno Union, all of them. But you don't really see much of the actual, separatists.
Yeah, there is the one arc of Clone Wars where Padme does visit the Separatist Parliament or whatever, and they do genuinely want peace, and that is super interesting to me. I love that the political grayness that brings to the war, because the Separatists ideologically really aren't that bad. It's the corporations in charge of it that are. It's those darn capitalists,
Yeah.
Who said Star Wars wasn't political? They're liars.
So, the Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch. That's what we were talking about.
So, it makes sense, the clones, they have, certain mutations, which, I get it, with the whole gene splicing thing and cloning, things are bound to go wrong, with 99. And I like how they were they paid their respects to 99 in that
They
regard.
did. I loved that.
That was really nice. But they play into a lot of tropes.
For sure. I mean, again, that's Clone Wars. I've been outspoken as to, Clone Wars isn't my favorite show. I've got my problems with it. Not to say I hate it or anything. It's not my favorite Star Wars animated series, I'll say that.
So here's the thing. I'm fine with the tropes if they kind of weren't thrown in your face. I mean, a lot of the characters in there were good. The techie, I'm fine with that. The silent sniper
Crosshair's
dude,
cool.
yeah, I'm fine with that. The only one I really have
Wrecker.
a problem with is Wrecker, because he plays, since he's a strong guy, he has to be a dumb guy.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter earlier today, Jacob Suggs was talking about it, and basically said that exact same thing. To which I made the comparison to Raccoon from Dragon Ball, because they are basically the same. Although I would love to see the Bad Batch in Ginyu Force pose. That would be perfect.
And, but I mean, like, it was cool though, because they showed like the fact that they play a little more rough. They have knives. They go in kind of
They
playfully.
pull off some crazy maneuvers.
Yes. Wrecker freaking pulling the gunship
Yes.
off of Cody.
Like, he is the Braun Strowman of the Clone Wars, you know?
But
If I was to make a Star Wars wrestling team, Wrecker is going on my team.
And it's kind of interesting how it's just that squad, and they're always sent on like the suicide missions.
What are they? Some sort of suicide squad?
It feels very like Clone Commando-y.
I'm glad that you completely just threw my joke under the rug, because that did not deserve to be acknowledged.
No, we can talk about that on our other podcast, Birds of Prey.
I never did see that movie.
Neither did like half of America.
What are you talking about? Half? Like, anyway, we're not a Birds of Prey podcast.
Now, Birdemic is a good movie.
That is a good movie. I will watch Birdemic any day of the week.
But Bad Batch. So,
Oh yeah, the Bad Batch. That's what we were talking about.
Echo.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I was surprised they didn't do like a reversal where it turns out like Echo had like some sort of like separatist failsafe that would like corrupt Republic networks or something. Like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised it was actually pretty straightforward.
And they kept him loyal and stuff. Like, I knew they were going to keep him loyal, but they did throw in that kind of element of, can he really be trusted?
Yeah, and that's why I thought they were gonna go around on it, but they didn't. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it
my
was a
favorite
thing.
line in that entire arc came from Mace Windu when he just drops down and he's like explaining who he was and how it's time for the droids to surrender.
It's pretty great. I'm not generally that big of a Mace Windu fan, but that was a pretty fun moment.
It was a good moment. Like it, because whenever I think about it, Mace Windu, he had a lot to do in the Clone Wars. It's just he's not really seen a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do like the concept of Hunter, the lead of this Bad Batch. How they explain, because I was looking at him, I was like, okay, so they all have their own specific quirks, but what makes this guy...
His hair.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but his thing is he can feel the electromagnetic fields of the planet. I was like, okay, that's a little far-fetched, but I did a little research into it, because I'm like that. But birds do that to actually fly places. And knowing that this is, like, not just a science fiction-y thing, this can actually have... this plays in with actual animals.
It's mildly grounded.
It's mildly grounded, yes. The superhuman thing where he's able to pull a whole gunship, that's a little far-fetched, but I could believe that because I mean, if you have like destroyed nerve endings, I mean, he could have destroyed all of his muscles, but didn't even care and didn't even know. Who knows? But there are people that are just really strong too. I mean, probably not gunship picking up strong, but
And you can always argue, adrenaline can make you do crazy things.
yeah.
I don't know
But
how
it
much
seemed like he
adrenaline
did this kind of
man's
thing
got,
all the
but-
time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They have the whole we're going down again kind of thing, and
And again, I think that's one of the benefits of the animation is that they can get away with that way more than if they tried to do that in live action,
yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of one thing I kind of had a hard time believing in The Mandalorian was the fight between him and
The Deveronian?
no, the shock trooper. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because like when they were fighting outside that little, it's not
Hut.
really, yeah, the hut. It seemed like she was going toe to toe. I get it, she's trained and everything, but he was wearing armor, and I don't think those punches and kicks and stuff would have mattered too much against armor. But
His armor had low stats.
but I get it. It's plot reasons, so whatever. Going back to the Bad Batch.
Oh yeah, the Bad Batch. That's what we were talking about.
I like how
How many times can I say that line this episode?
it's interesting because Clone Wars has this unique aspect about it where a lot of times the main characters would just kind of do random like things like oh, this is happening, let me just jump off this building and hope for the best.
Yeah. Like, I would say that's criticism against it, but, like, Rebels does that all the time, too. So, it's just a matter of... I understand it's a thing that just happens in the animated media,
Yeah, well, I mean, Star
and
Wars
in the
Episode 2
heightened-
does that too, where Obi-Wan jumps out the window and grabs the droid.
I
and
was
expects
just about
for
to
the
say,
best.
it's
Yeah.
also part of the sort of heightened reality that the prequels operate in, where you just, like, alright, I guess I just gotta roll with this. It's consistent. I can say I don't like it, but I can't argue it's not consistent,
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, it's definitely Star Wars.
Yep. Whether you like it or not. Oh yeah, Obi-Wan knows about Anakin and Padme. What'd you think
Yeah,
about
that was interesting.
that? Cause the way I thought it was a great moment. I didn't think it was as shocking as other people did, because I always figured Obi-Wan knew what was up. He just wasn't gonna say anything
Because
about it.
he kind of had
ever.
his thing with Satine, so he understood.
Right, yeah, he wasn't gonna be
But
like, oh, Anakin,
what
I'm
I
gonna
really
get
liked
up on
about
this
that-
high horse.
What I really liked was the dynamic between Anakin and Rex. How Rex would look out for him.
I know,
So
that's
Rex
crazy.
knew so Rex knew what was going on as well.
Rex was Anakin's wingman.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like they play up Rex and Anakin like they were friends. Like
I know, it's really nuts.
So- what I'm interested to find out is like when do they split off? Because Rex didn't as far as we know, really, he didn't participate in Order 66.
yeah, he removes his chip before it. We know that.
Yeah, and
We know he's at the Battle of Mandalore with Ahsoka.
yeah, so
And we know that the last time Ahsoka sees Anakin, he's going off to save the Chancellor. So presumably that's where the split off happens.
yeah, so the thing is like, so did Anakin just accept the fact that Rex was gone? Because didn't Rex fake his own death?
He did fake his own death, yes. Which I guess he would, as Vader at that point, he's like, that sucks, but I'm a Sith Lord now. Let's see.
Because it'd be interesting, that dynamic, like, if Rex never left.
Yeah, because I don't think he would have told Rex that, I'm Anakin.
But he would have
certainly
known,
would have
though,
figured it out.
because Anakin was the one who marched straight to the Jedi Temple. So all of those clones knew.
Yeah, because it is the 501st that marches into the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
But, see, that's always been confusing to me, though. Because in the Vader comics, doesn't he kill some clones who find out that he was Anakin Skywalker?
Yeah, but yet the entire 501st Legion knew, because that was his Legion.
Yeah. So what, was it like a code of silence thing? Or
Maybe they just wised up. Or maybe they knew.
Or maybe it's the chips. Was it like the fact that the chips programmed them for Order 66 that it just made the experience so like foggy for them that they didn't even remember Anakin as a part of it?
It could be. I mean, I could definitely buy that as an explanation.
Yeah. As much as I don't like the chips, again, it'd be consistent.
Yeah, but he's addressed as Lord Vader in Episode 3 when they're marching to the temple.
That's true.
So the thing is, like, they would have to have made that connection.
Yeah. Yeah, I've thought about that too to an extent. It's definitely odd. I would like to see that issue tackled at some point. That's actually, because I've never thought about it this much. I've just lightly touched on it mentally. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
I hope that we see that in the future, because I want to know now.
Yeah, because, well, what I don't want to happen, I don't want them to completely write off the 501st being Vader's fist.
And I don't think they will. The 501st is too important.
Maybe they were all new guys.
The newly inducted 501st. Alright, your first mission, go to the Jedi Temple.
You're gonna follow Lord Vader.
It's a
Who's
rough
that?
first
It's
day
him.
at
Okay.
work.
And then they find out that his real name was Anakin, and those were the ones that got murdered.
Man, they just expected, like, some light exercises, some basic, like, formal introductions on their first day of training. Nope, you're going straight to the Jedi Temple.
This is what I don't understand. How does one train to kill? Because obviously the clones were trained.
Yes.
How did they know how to take down Jedi so easily?
I mean, they fought alongside them. Simple as that.
Yeah, but...
And they had the element of surprise.
Yeah, I guess.
That like the clones or the Jedi rather in the field that died, that's how most of them got killed, is just because they didn't see it coming.
Right. My whole thing is like in the Jedi Temple, because there's a lot of Jedi in there.
With that, I would say at the very least it must have been just sheer military force. Like, they surrounded the temple. There's no way out of the temple. Which you and I talked about this a little bit, because we're running a Force and Destiny campaign off podcast right now with some friends.
I mean, not right now. We're doing the podcast. We're not irresponsible. Anyway, I have 3 success.
But no, your character escaped the Jedi Temple during the Operation Nightfall, as it were. So we got to kind of come up with a little bit of an explanation for that. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, it's. I imagine there were far more clone casualties than Jedi in the temple. That's for sure. And you have to keep in mind also that a lot of the masters and knights were gone from the temple. It was primarily younglings and like a few instructors.
Yeah.
And even then, some of them got out. Like, Jocasta Nu made it out.
And I guess the mass loss of life, because Yoda felt it, and it impacted him hard. So that could have also affected the other Jedi as well.
Yes, that is actually, I won't say it, but there is a Star Wars media that you have not consumed that I want to talk about as well, in which that is a very specific plot point. That is how a specific Jedi survives. For a time.
Okay.
like it's not a major spoiler. I can say it. There's a flashback in Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay, I was like,
where-
well, what's the medium?
Yeah, it's not that big of a spoiler. I don't know why I was hiding.
Yeah, you got me all hyped.
No, Jaro Tapal manages to survive the initial attack just because he senses the death of the Jedi. Which is cool because he's also a Lasat. Do we have anything else we wanted to say about the Bad Batch / the Clone Wars? It's not finished airing. I think we're still in the middle of the Ahsoka arc as we record this.
Yes. I would like to talk later about the Ahsoka arc because there's a lot of stuff that's brought up that I think is beautiful.
Yes, I just haven't watched it yet.
See, I'm caught up on it. There's a lot of it that kind of bugs me, but I think that's just because of the whole kind of feel, because it is aimed towards kids.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's what a lot of people tend to overlook.
There are small details that I've never even thought about that have been touched on in just that arc that broadens like this entire world. Yeah, specifically Coruscant. Like it's really fleshing Coruscant out a lot more, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, like that one episode that I did watch is on level 1313, which is fun.
That is fun.
And I've always just been fascinated by the levels of Coruscant. Like that system's got to be crazy as hell.
Yeah, it's got some good meat to it. But in the Bad Batch, I like it. Echo, it becomes like this weird cyborg thing, but he's still accepted by the clones. I really liked that. Because the clones, I love just the brotherhood bond that they have. It makes them such good. It's such a good plot device too, that they wouldn't want to leave a man behind.
That is one thing that the Clone Wars absolutely excels at. Is it makes you care about the clones, because the movies sure as hell didn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, but the Clone Wars does an incredible job of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the Clone Wars, like the scene, the joke where Padme falls out, and they're just like, "Oh, Padme," and they don't care about TC 16025. Like,
Yep. And there's
they do
the classic
back.
Plo Koon
and
meme.
that clone isn't dead. He gets up, he helps Padme up, and then later another gunship stops and picks him up, and so they do.
And they leave the clone behind.
But yeah, and in the movies they do seem expendable. I mean, but not to me.
Not to me. Oh man. I think that's all I had. Oh yeah, I just thought of this like 2 seconds ago. What happens to the Bad Batch in the Rise of the Empire?
Ooh.
Are they part of the Stormtrooper Corps, or do they get phased out as well?
Because they're not attached to a legion.
Yeah, they're their own special task.
I would imagine those would be the first suitors for the
Imperial Commandos.
For either the Imperial Commandos or like the Dark Troopers.
Oh yeah, Dark Troopers, or they could just be the exact same role they served in the Republic, in the Empire.
Although the thing is, on the missions that they go on, I don't expect them to survive into the Empire, into the Galactic Civil
Empire
War.
would probably send them into a no-win scenario and have them killed,
Well,
whether intentional or just like.
I don't
we'll
think
see
they
if
make it
works.
past the Clone Wars. I think at some later battle they probably get it.
I don't know, because it's pretty close to. We're pretty close to Revenge of the Sith in the timeline at this point. Like they must have been killed in the next mission they had if it was.
I mean, they very well could have, because they go off.
I mean, it is a war.
It is a war, and wars are messy, and it's on hundreds of systems. Like hundreds of planets are at war too,
Oh, for sure.
on
Yeah.
global scale.
The scale of the war is often lost on us,
Yes. So
especially because we have no idea how accurate some numbers are.
yeah, and I mean,
Because how many in Attack of the Clones? They say what 200,000 troops with 1 million more on the way, which seems incredibly small for a galactic conflict. And there was so much controversy around the Karen Traviss books because she said at one point there were, at any given time, there were no more than like 3 million clones, I think she said. Which again, people are like, that is unfeasibly small for a galactic war.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I don't care. I'm curious about that stuff, but it doesn't like make it or break it.
The one thing, a few things that get me is the deteriorating genes that they mention in a couple episodes of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that seemed kind of iffy to me.
Because it takes 10 years for them to be cloned, and Jango Fett just died in episode 2. So there should have been enough DNA, and he was living on Kamino too for fresh DNA.
Yeah.
So how rapidly does this stuff deteriorate?
They forgot to leave. They didn't leave the fridge plugged in one day.
Maybe
all the DNA went bad.
Have you ever seen a fridge in Star Wars?
Yeah, it's called a carbon freezing.
Nope. That's carbon freeze. That's not a fridge. You think they just carbon froze a bunch of vials of blood?
I'm pretty sure we have seen a fridge in Star Wars. I would put money on it.
I know we've seen toilets, and that shocked me.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I texted you when we saw the first episode of The Mandalorian, because when we did our Star Wars Bounty Hunter episode, we specifically commented that we don't know if we've ever seen a toilet in Star Wars. And in episode 1 of The Mandalorian, we see a toilet in Star Wars. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen a fridge in Star Wars at some point.
But yeah, that kind of gets me. Unless that's what explains the Bad Batch, that they were rapidly accelerating these clones. So instead of 10 years, it takes like 5 years, 2 years.
Yeah, and I've often wondered, like, I know they say that, they stopped production of clones after the Republic transitions into the Empire, but, like, what happened to all those clones who, like, weren't fully grown? What happened to, like, the 5-year-old clones, you know?
Knowing the Empire, they probably just executed them.
I know, and, like, that's horrifying to me. I've thought about that, because at one point, I was writing some stories about, like, clones post Order 66, and so an inevitable question for me is, what happened to all those clones on Kamino? Like,
man, because here's the thing, the Empire is not above killing children.
Oh no, they'll euthanize a species. Like, you saw what happened to the Geonosians and Rebels.
They use disruptor rifles on species just to test them out. Like, straight up whatever. They don't care.
They build planet-killing weapons. Like,
so
they aren't a rational government.
But I think, here's the thing. Star Wars is marketed for children. I'm just putting it out there. Because even though it's Star Wars, the most violent one is still in a PG, 13 rating.
Yeah, and even then, it's just moments of being worthy of that PG-13 rating rather than consistently violent in that way.
Right. So
it's fantasy violence.
Right. But if we had a Star Wars that was like Saving Private Ryan, like rated R Star Wars, like, I think
there's some people that want that, and I don't understand it.
Well, I think what they want is a Star Wars that's not for children, because they don't want some of the Clone Wars-y kind of feel to it, where some of the
I would argue it's more of a Rebels or Resistance kind of feel to it than Clone Wars. Because Clone Wars is some
Clone
of
Wars
the
does
darkest
get really
Star Wars
dark,
content.
yeah. But yeah, the whole like kind of clunky dialogue of, well, of course it's clunky because they really don't want to get into really bad things that a lot of kids could be facing, like whenever they say in stuff like parents split up or parents like pass away, they don't say they get divorced, they don't say they don't say domestic violence, they don't have like there's a lot of stuff that they just don't really hit on. And then also there's like oh, you have a problem? Well, I don't want to talk about it just because, feelings.
Yeah, there's definitely instances of like dancing around stuff.
Yeah. Or people get offended like way too easily over dumb stuff. Like,
I mean,
you
that's the
shouldn't
Star
touch my
Wars fandom as a
stuff.
whole.
Don't touch my stuff. I don't like it. And then they're like, oh, all right. Or they're like, hey, I don't want to talk about it. And they're like, fine, don't talk about it. And then they like throw this hissy fit. I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of the sort of animation tropes that we were talking about before.
But, I mean, that's the only stuff that really kind of bothers me about this kind of thing. But overall, I still love it. It's Star Wars. It's fun. It's an adventure. But yeah, the playing back, rated R Star Wars, whatever. I would like to see. I do kind of want to see those dark moments.
Yeah, I want to see dark moments for sure, but I don't want it to be. I don't want to linger on it too much, and I never want something like that to be the focus,
Right.
'Cause I feel like anytime Star Wars goes harder than PG-13, I feel like it just doesn't feel right. I can respect a book like Death Troopers, for example. That, for those who don't know, that's like the Star Wars zombie book, and it's well
Han and
written.
Chewie.
And that's when it falls apart for me. But it's a well-written book. It's a good time. But as soon as I'm like, yeah, that was canon at one point, I'm like,
See, I like that, but what I want to see is a reason for us to be like, okay, yeah, the Empire is really, really bad. I mean, we do get a lot of that because we see the.
I was gonna say we
practices.
just discussed that.
Yeah, we see a lot of that. But I also want to see things like why the Republic's so bad. Like, why are the Separatists wanting to?
Yeah, because there's not a ton of context given to that in the Clone Wars, I feel.
See, I think
I could just be misremembering because it's been a while since I've watched through the show, but
now, so in the Bad Batch, actually, the whole tribe that was like, we don't want your war here, and they straight up bring the war there.
Yeah, there's no war here unless you've brought it with you.
And then, like, they fight with the clones, and then I guess they're buddies with the Republic now?
Yeah, that was a little weird to me, where I was like, they were pretty quick to choose a side there,
Yeah, they're like, oh, we don't like the Techno Union, even though technically it was the clones' fault.
Yeah.
But I want to see reasons why they actually don't like the Republic, because they paint the Republic in such good light in the Clone Wars and everything else. The only real thing that we get is they're bad because Palpatine's behind it.
Yeah, and I can understand being hesitant to go into that kind of stuff, because, these are ultimately kids shows, and kids do find politics boring.
But I want to see...
You really did go for some of those politics episodes,
To me, in the movies, the clones didn't really feel like the friendliest characters.
I mean, they're pretty generic soldier types in the films.
But generic soldier type doesn't screech out friendly,
Right, like we were saying earlier, it was the Clone Wars that really gave them individualism and personality, and really made you kind of feel for them.
But I feel like a lot of times they're very trusting. I mean, of course, not to droids. They hate those because that's what they fight. But I want to see a little bit. This sounds really bad, but I want to see the Republic kind of suppressing people a little bit. Putting curfews on planets, being like, no, it's not safe. Go back into your areas, and they have like clones posted in areas.
Yeah, this is another thing that you and I were talking about when we were talking about doing our Separatist campaign, is we're like, we kind of want to tackle the war from the opposite perspective.
Because there were good people on the other side.
Absolutely. Like, that whole Separatist Parliament episode is about, like, hey, a lot of these Separatists are not bad people and genuinely have good intentions. It's like the Revenge of the Sith crawl says, there are heroes on both sides and evil is everywhere.
Yeah. So, but again, I would like to see a little bit more of this grayness.
Yeah, there's definitely more room to build on it. But is that all we got to say about Clone Wars?
Yeah, I think that's about it.
So there were two things I wanted to talk about that, at least one of them I know for sure Matt has not played through. So I'm going to try and keep it brief, but I wanted to talk about, first, the Rise of Kylo Ren comics. Matt, did you by any chance read or hear anything about these?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay. So, The Rise of Kylo Ren was a 4-issue comic arc about Kylo Ren joining the Knights of Ren. I personally really liked it. I would have liked a little more context for some things, but overall I really enjoyed its portrayal of Ben Solo. The one real downside I have about it is we're still really ambiguous as to what happened to the Jedi Temple in terms of who actually burned it down, because the comic makes it abundantly clear it was not Ben Solo. Ben Solo came out of the hut after Luke tried to kill him, and the temple was on fire. Like,
maybe he forced fired it in his sleep.
It seems in your anger you burned the temple down. But no, I really am fascinated by the portrayal of Snoke in it. And I really want to learn more about their relationship. The Knights of Ren were not as interesting as I thought they could have been, but, you know, whatever. That's more or less what I had to say about that. It's well written. It's written by Charles Soule, and I did enjoy it overall. So, and then Jedi Fallen Order. I'll keep this spoiler free and brief because once Matt eventually plays it, I'm sure we'll have a full length spoiler discussion.
Once I get money.
Once you win the pod race.
Yes. Then I'll finally be free.
And then you won't have a bomb in your brain anymore. So, Jedi Fallen Order is absolutely fantastic. I feel like its story has gotten a little... I don't want to say it's overhyped, but like it's a really solid Star Wars story, but it's nothing we haven't seen before. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a really good way. It's just solid Star Wars. But it's not super innovative or anything. It is absolutely fantastic. I love the gameplay. I have 100%ed the game, and I've almost beaten my third playthrough of it already. I feel like at that point, that's all I've got to say. It's so fun. The Magenta. I'm part of the Magenta Lightsaber Squad for life.
Oh.
I'm gonna start a Discord server soon.
Magenta.
But yeah, that's more or less what I have to say about it for now. If Matt eventually plays it, we'll have a spoiler talk, I'm sure. But that's what I got for now. Matt, what else do we have to talk about?
Well, first of all, what a good name for like maybe a side segment or something. Just spoiler talks.
Yeah.
Man, that'd be fun. Anywho, yeah, that's about it. That's all I've got.
Nothing else Star Wars related that we can bring up? I got something Star Wars related to bring up.
Okay.
I'm going to plug another podcast that I've been listening to that I enjoy. If you like us, check out the Bombad Cast. I've been listening to them for a while now, and if you check out a couple of their episodes, you may hear them read tweets from me. But that's not why I'm telling you to listen to them. They're also just really cool guys. I talk to Jerry and Scotty on Twitter every once in a while, and they seem like really nice folks. So go check out the Bombad Cast. Oh yeah, and they did a tournament that was March Weirdness, where my suggestion, my boy Malakali, won as the number one weirdo in Star Wars. And I know we didn't have a traditional format for this episode like we try and do with our segments, but like I said, this is sort of an experimental one where we're trying to figure things out, so we'll be back to a relative norm soon.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more order, that kind of thing. But as of right now, I think this was a fairly good first run.
Yeah. I think so. Well, I haven't edited it. It may all fall apart.
Yeah, we might learn that, one of our audio is complete trash the entire time.
Yeah, who knows? I'm already crapping my pants at the thought, so I'm gonna end this podcast so I can change those.
So sorry if you like listening to All Remaining Systems. It has now ended.
All Remaining Systems is canceled forever. Man, this was a disappointing finale. We never even finished the Jedi Prince books. Oh man. Okay. That was a joke. We're not canceled, guys. We're gonna keep making stuff in some form or another. We'll make it work. So with all of this being said, stay inside, and remember to support your local First Order.
Your First Order is quarantining you.
Down with your resistance scum.
Do not go outside. Do not join the resistance.
Many Bothans died because they did not stay away from other people.
They did not wear
bring
their
you this
masks
podcast.
or their gloves. They did not wash their hands. They did not maintain 6-foot social distancing.
And All Remaining Systems will bow
to the First Order.